finally, Kamala Harris sent us a love letter. That, to you, that might have been a policy document. I read that as a love letter from Kamala Harris to black men who need some love.
Yeah, we back. Yeah, we back. Now, today, man, we're going to be talking about Kamala Harris's agenda for black men. Now, I guess we got some clarification on the agenda for black men. Take a look up on the screen. Kamala Harris's campaign says the programs listed under the agenda for black men will be open to all Americans on a race-neutral basis. Now, let's jump straight into the article. Vice President Kamala Harris's opportunity agenda for black men aims to shore up support from a pillar of the Democratic base, with a key section promising 1 million loans that are fully forgivable to black entrepreneurs and others to start a business. It also includes education, training, and mentorship programs that help black men get good paying jobs, legalizing recreational marijuana and creating opportunities for black Americans to succeed in this new industry, and helping black men provide care for their aging parents. While Harris's rhetoric suggests that she will provide such benefits specifically to black men and women, it turns out that the words and others are doing a ton of work. The campaign says the programs listed under the black men agenda will be open to all Americans on a race-neutral basis. Now, essentially what it's saying is that there is no black men agenda because the black men agenda is open to all men. Even white women get to benefit from the black men agenda. Now, in this article, they mentioned somebody by the name of Edward Blum. And he is somebody who said that if Kamala Harris were to win the election and she implemented any policies that were specifically to benefit black men, that he would plan to sue the Harris administration, basically saying that if Kamala Harris dared to implement anything to the benefit of black men, he would take her to court to have it reversed. Now, let's take a look at who is this guy, Edward Blum. Take a look up on the screen. Edward J. Blum is an American conservative litigant who opposes classifications and preferences based on race and ethnicity. Now, apparently, this is the same guy who was the one who did the work to destroy affirmative action. As you can see by the headline from the New York Times, he worked for years to overturn affirmative action and he finally won, but he's not done. Now, this is why I say that black men are politically homeless, because on the Democrat side, they refuse to even acknowledge black men. And then on the conservative side, they're waiting in the wings to destroy any type of policy that would benefit black men as a collective. So that's the predicament that we find ourselves in. The Democrats refuse to acknowledge or implement anything to the benefit of black men. And if by the off chance that they do, the conservatives are waiting in the wings to destroy it and reverse it. Now, let's continue. Blum promised to sue the Harris administration if it enacted what she seemed to be promising. Racially exclusive programs like the one she has proposed have been repeatedly struck down by the courts in the past, he said. Now, like I said before, this guy up on the screen, Edward Blum, a conservative lawyer, he already said that if black men get anything specific for them, he has taken it to the courts to have it destroyed. Man, we live in a crazy world, brothers. But anyways, like I said, man, that's the reality that we find ourselves in. Like I said, Kamala Harris and the Democrats rolled out the agenda for black men. And within a week, less than a week, within a few days, they already clarified that the programs will be open to all men, all groups, anyone who applies, right? So basically, it's not really an agenda for black men at all. It's just a general policy for the American people, but she decided to slap black men's name on it. And I guess that was supposed to get us out there and go vote. Now, of course, the excuse they're going to say is that we cannot roll out any specific policy for any specific group. And if you ask me, I believe that's because Kamala Harris is trying to secure votes from multiple demographics. And there are many demographics in the United States that would feel very angry if black men were to get anything specific for them. Right? It's no problem when other groups get things specific for them. But when it comes to black men, obviously there are certain groups that are hostile towards even the thought of black men getting anything beneficial for their collective group. So I'm of the belief that because Kamala Harris doesn't want to lose those specific votes, and I'm talking about the votes from individuals who basically have a hatred or hostility towards black men, she's just providing the reassurance that, listen, I'm not going to do nothing for these niggas for real. You know, listen, don't get scared. Listen, don't be alarmed. I'm not going to do nothing for these niggas. You can still vote for me. You can still vote for me. I think that's basically why she came out in her campaign, clarified that the agenda for black men really ain't for black men. And my only issue is this. when you examine the political landscape, you realize that in the past, the Democrats and really both political parties have implemented policies that were targeted or beneficial towards specific groups. For example, when the Jewish community raised concerns about anti-Semitism, did the government say that, no, we cannot, we have to be neutral. We cannot do anything for a specific group? No, of course not. They even created a whole department in the federal government entitled the Office of the Special Envoy to Monitor and Combat Anti-Semitism, an entire office tailored specifically for the Jewish community. And in 2019, Donald Trump had signed Executive Order 13899 on combating anti-Semitism. So clearly, they can put policies in place for specific groups if they wanted to. Even back in 2021, Joe Biden had signed the Anti-Asian Hate Crime Bill. Back in 1994, you had the Violence Against Women Act. And then, of course, you had different policies such as, for the migrants, the DACA and things like that. And then, of course, you had specific policy for the LGBT community, things like that. So obviously, there's been instances where specific groups had got policy tailored specifically for their community. So it's something that has been done before. They just don't think that it's very expedient at the moment or beneficial at the moment for them to carry on forward with it. Because like I said, black men are already locked in the bag, right? Like I said, we are the most loyal and the most reliable male voting bloc for the Democratic Party. So they're not really worried about, courting our vote. They're really trying to win some of the undecided vote. They're trying to get some of the white vote, some of the Hispanic vote, some of the different demographics who are not really as solid or reliable or kind of undecided. So if they lean into an agenda for black men, those other demographics might get radicalized to go vote for Donald Trump. So in an effort to kind of reassure or appease those demographics, Kamala Harris's campaign came out and said that, listen, this agenda is not really for black men. It's for all men. It's for everybody who wants it. So like I said, man, the black man is politically homeless, unfortunately, right? And it's crazy because even though they say they can't do anything for any specific groups, take a look up on the screen. I believe this headline came out either today or yesterday. Vice President Kamala Harris's advisors say that the empathy she has expressed for Palestinians in Gaza should not be confused with any willingness to break from U.S. foreign policy towards Israel as a presidential candidate. Now, like I said, to tie this back to the agenda for black men, obviously, the Democrats say that they cannot implement anything specific for black men because I'm of the belief that they don't want to upset the other demographics in the so-called Democratic coalition. They don't want to lose out on votes. Now, like I said, obviously, they have no problem with policy that is tailored to specific groups because when it comes to, for example, Israel or the Jewish American community, obviously, they have no problem with catering to that specific demographic, even at the cost of losing votes from Palestinian Americans or Muslim Americans. But they don't want to stand on business when it comes to the agenda for black men because they don't want to lose out on votes from white Americans. So even though we are the most loyal and reliable voting bloc in terms of men in the United States, black men are stuck in this weird purgatory or this weird status of limbo where we have one political party that takes us for granted and doesn't really want to rally behind us. And then we have another political party that is openly hostile towards us and is waiting to destroy any type of progress that we could make. Now, from this situation, I come to this one conclusion. Obviously, I know they talk about, go out and vote, but obviously just voting by itself is not enough, right? Black men have been voting for Democrats for decades, and what do we have to show for it? They still hesitate to give us anything specific, even though we are the number one voting bloc for men in the United States when it comes to the Democratic Party, but we have zero targeted policies geared towards our collective. Right. Meanwhile, you have other demographics who are smaller than us in population size, but they are able to get things done politically. And that is because simply voting by itself is not enough. And that's what they don't tell us. Right. That's what they don't tell us. They tell us to go out and vote, go out and vote, go out and vote. But they don't tell us that just voting by itself is not enough to get things done. As we can see, the black man been voting his ass off for a very long time. But other groups who are smaller than us in population size and who probably vote less than us and definitely vote less for the Democratic Party, they're able to get more out of the Democratic Party. For example, I believe the Jewish community is pretty diverse in terms of political thought, right? You have Jewish Republicans, Jewish conservatives, Jewish independents, whereas black men, we rally behind the Democrats, full speed, right? But still, other demographics who are less reliable than us are able to get more out of the Democratic Party than we are. So that goes to show you that something is obviously wrong here. There's obviously something that we are not doing, that we are not getting the same results. And I believe that's because that while yes, voting is important, what's also important is circulating your dollars, economic empowerment, putting your money where your mouth is, right? Putting money behind your initiatives, putting money behind your political ideologies and your political aspirations. It's not only about just voting every 4 years, right? You have to fund campaigns. You have to hire lobbyists, right? You have to go through certain political channels to influence the policymakers, to let them know that if you don't deliver on what we are asking for, then the money will stop. That's how you get things like the Office of the Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism, right? Also, you have to be able to control your own narrative, whether that be through the media, through education. You have to control and shape the narratives surrounding your community. Now, when it comes to weaponizing the media and controlling your narrative, obviously that's something that I'm doing right here on this platform, right? I've taken it upon myself to establish my own presence in the media, to be a voice for my brothers. So I'm obviously taking my steps to shape the narrative and control the narrative surrounding my community, because it is through the media that you are able to control the public perception. Now, of course, I'm just a small up and coming channel, but when I talk about the media, I'm talking about black men establishing these large scale media companies that operate at the highest level. Because the way people see us, the way people think about black men, indirectly influences how society is going to treat us, how they're going to respect us, right? If the media is constantly portraying us in a negative light, then that becomes the image that sticks in the minds of the people, in the minds of the politicians, and even in the minds of our own fellow black men and women. Right? So when that narrative dominates, it's harder to push for policies that are tailored specifically to us. That is why it is important to control your own narrative. If you are seen in a positive light, then you won't get as much pushback if you get policies specifically tailored for your collective group. And also, economic power is important because then you have the power to punish those who go against your interests. So even if people do decide to push back against you, you have the economic power or the economic leverage to shut out any detractors who may be going against you. Right. For example, the Jewish community has plenty of detractors. Right. A lot of people who support Palestine are against Israel. But even though there are a lot of detractors against Israel, they still move forward with their agenda. It doesn't stop what they're trying to do because they got the media in their back pocket to control the narrative, and they got the money to defend their economic and political interests. And that's really what it's about, man. It's way more than just voting, man. In the United States, politics runs on money. Campaigns need funding, campaigns need financing, politicians respond to their donors, and when it comes to lobbying for policy, listen, money talks, bullshit walks, man. That's how it goes. That's why communities with the proper economic backing get their issues addressed. Even though they have a small population, they wield an outsized influence compared to you with a larger population and a larger voting bloc, right? They get things done, and you can't even get, some basic agenda, passed through for you, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. And it's crazy because black men were kind of headed towards that path, I would say, back in 2013, 2014. You remember it was the Buy Black movement. We got to buy back the block, economic empowerment. Everybody talking about starting a business, circulating the black dollar in the community. That was the topic of conversation about 10 years ago. That's the type of time everybody was on back in 2014. Fast forward to today. I don't know how that got off track. I don't know how that got derailed and sidetracked, but I remember 10 years ago, it was about economic empowerment, buying back the block, circulating the black dollar. Everybody had their mind geared in the right direction, but that got derailed. That got derailed and destroyed over the last 10 years. I don't know where everything went wrong, man. And I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but I just find it funny how everybody was on some economic empowerment, everybody coming together, and then somehow the conversation switched to, oh, you from here, I'm from there, you're a black immigrant, I'm from over here, this, that, and the third. The conversation completely changed. We went from talking about circulating the black dollar to now, obviously, long story short, the conversation has changed. Obviously, the conversation has changed. Unity and cooperation is no longer the agenda for the day. So I don't know how we expect to accumulate and maintain any semblance of political power, but it is what it is. Anyways, man, Kamala Harris has walked back the agenda for black men. It is not the agenda for black men. It is the agenda for all men and all women too. So that's what it is. I just came back to make the clarification just so y'all boys know it is what it is. And look, and the reality is the conservatives, the Republicans, obviously not going to give anything to black men because shit, they already told us that if the Democrats implement anything for black men, they're going to reverse it and destroy it. So, like I said, the black man is politically homeless. The Democrats don't want to stand behind you and rally behind you. And the Republicans are openly hostile towards you and will reverse any positive gains that you make. Any positive progress that you make, they're waiting in the wings to reverse it and destroy it. So that's the reality that you find yourself in, black man. So you're going to have to come up with a plan to deal with this. Anyways, it's your boy Neferkari, the Salim, back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the channel, man. Support the album. Peace.
No. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders, you know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wife, yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word and it's bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Back in my city, they loving me. Standing alone, I'm 100 deep. Enemy plotting and still in reach. They trying to make sure that we underneath. Trying to make sure that we never make it. Coming for power, come get acquainted. Coming for everything that I wanted. Feeling like Drake, but I really wrote it. Feeling like Kendrick, I'm checking names. Gotta roll up while I go insane. Got so much stress, I've been gaining weight. Stuffing these racks in this Louis case. One thing for certain, I'm about to check. Keep it 100 and nothing less. Stick with the family since day one. Had to stay down till my day come. Had to stay down, but I'm never patient. Hop on the mic and I'm motivated. Hop on the mic and I drive a classic. Haters can't see me, they copping glasses. Back in the studio making magic. Got a new tape and it's in production. Back on my business, I got a budget. Staying low key when I'm out in public. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders, you know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wife, yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word and it's bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news.